Would you all please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Light reading. It takes some light exciting.
Robert. I'd like to welcome you to Board of Supervisors work session, or meeting today. This is the 11th of April, 2023. It is 9 a.m. Do we have any changes to the tentative agenda?
I have none.
Okay, meet with department heads and elected officials. Angie Vaughn, make us feel safe.
Good morning. Really, I don't have too much to share. It's springtime, so things are going to start getting busier. Just a reminder to stay focused and stay safe out there. There's a lot of road construction, so people slow down driving. And that's about it.
Thank you for that. Mr. Trent, any word from the attorney's office?
Lisa's here, I'm just here for the work session.
Okay. Then Lisa, would you like to speak for the attorney's office?
We're just busy. It's spring, so we're busy.
That's the nice way of saying duh. Spring.
I filed 9 felony drug trial informations last Friday, if that tells you how busy we are.
All right.
The young man's thoughts likely turn to thoughts of crime.
He's responsible for about half of them.
Wow. Well, all righty then. We appreciate you staying busy. And that takes us to Kevin Glendenning, the sheriff. Have you arrested anybody over the weekend?
Good morning. Things are going well. Busy as everybody else is. Yesterday I took our 2 new hires up to Ames for their pre-test for the academy. They're going to be starting the academy on May 1st. So they got through all their, it's kind of an orientation, but also it's a pre-test on the physical to make sure that they actually meet qualifications. So they had their 80 new academy recruits up there, and our 2 new hires made it through great. We'll be getting personnel changes or personnel hiring changes over for them here in the near future, and they're going to start just a couple days before May 1st. So they're good to drive up to the academy and on Sunday, and they'll start on May 1st. So pretty excited to have them on board. Other than that, we just have a lot of things going. The jail's at 83 this morning. Yesterday it was at 76, but 7 got arrested overnight. Our numbers are actually pretty good though. We've got 6 out of county, 2 of those are juveniles. Those are manageable numbers, and our wait list is really improved. So we have 0 waiting on prison and 2 waiting on the residential facility, and 1 of those is going out today. So we're really shaping up in that area.
That's the sheriff question. It's always been my understanding that you screen the attendees at these supervisor meetings. Has that practice gotten a little lax?
Should maybe start like acting as a bouncer at the door.
This ain't gonna be a bad feeling about it. Colin Gers, IT. Thank you, Sheriff.
Good morning. Just keep busy like always. I went down here to the public library last Thursday. The OCIO had a little broadband discussion down here. They've been going around the state, hitting local communities, asking local folk what they feel in terms of broadband and what the state and counties need to do a little bit more to try to make sure that everyone has accessibility to those type of things. It was a really good discussion. They asked, kind of the pain points, whether it was mainly accessibility, affordability, education, and device skills or access to devices, or what local folks felt was the biggest pain point and what the state might be able to do. It was a good discussion. It also brought up the ACP, the Affordable Connectivity Program, which I just wanted to talk about kind of real quickly, but it's for low-income folks, and there's certain criteria for it for those that participate in free and reduced school lunches and SNAP and Medicaid and a few other things. But basically, the FCC and the federal government will help pay for broadband access for low-income housing. They talked about that, and they talked about how there's only certain internet providers in Iowa that actually offer this program. Lisco is one of them. Apparently, a few other local ones don't. So I might bring that up down the road if any other providers come in looking for some grant money about what they would need to offer that kind of service. Talked a lot about some of the device skills and kids and making sure they're safe online. What all ends up kind of rolling out with that, I'm not sure, but it was a good discussion, and it'd been nice. We had maybe a few more folks from the local community come down there, but I don't think a lot really knew about it. There's only about 3 of us down there, so other than that, that's all I got to report.
Okay. Ken Hyman, Seal Region.
Yeah, we've been working on contract meetings for the Seal Region. Had initial contract meetings with First Resources, Hope Haven, Optimay, Counseling Associates. There's a lot more budget detail we need before we can take them to the governing board, but we're working on those. The Seal meetings are tomorrow, so we're looking forward to that. And then a week from tomorrow, I think, is when we're gonna meet in Ottumwa, and the two governing boards for the Seal Region and South Central Behavioral Health Region will meet together for the first time and start talking about a merge. So, and Monroe County is gonna join us too for that. So, looking forward to all those discussions. I know some of the agenda items for tomorrow's governing board meeting are gonna be to review the RFP scores for mobile crisis response and crisis stabilization. So that would really help our, if a person can go out, a mental health professional can go out to different places in the community instead of asking people to go to a certain site, it would really help. So we're hoping that we get that started pretty soon.
How many proposals did you get, or do you know?
We got 2 different agencies that
Really?
made proposals, and then regional planning scored those proposals and is going to bring to the governing board the results of the scoring. So yeah, I think we can move forward with the contract after that, after the governing board votes on that. So, yep, we're excited about that. The CEO's got a performance-based contract with the state on the agenda, and yeah, and then April 19th is that joint meeting with South Central Behavioral Health Region, and the governing boards will meet together, and the CDSs will meet that same day too. So it's gonna be a day of meetings over in Ottumwa. So that's about all I've got for now.
All right. We appreciate that, thank you, Ken. Jared Lasser, land use.
Good morning. I only have one item on the agenda for today. Apart from that, that's a major subdivision, but we do have several minor subdivisions we expect to see coming through here soon. It's that time of year. We get quite a bit of activity on that. Apart from that, I don't have anything to report.
Thank you, Jared. Chris Lee, Conservation.
Good morning. In events stuff, we have our hiking park down at Shimmick in our partnership with Lee County. We're going to do a hiking park on Thursday down at Shimmick, so that's pretty cool. The summer camp sign up will open up later this month. All that information's online, so I know as we get into spring, nicer weather, folks will be thinking about summer camp. So and find that link. It'll be on our Facebook page, on our website and stuff. That will open at noon on, I think it's like the 25th or 6th. I don't have the date off the top of my head, but like I said, that's all available online. Last week we did a joint training with the Sheriff's Department and Emergency Management Services around town. We did an active shooter training at Big Hollow. It was really good. I really appreciate the Sheriff's Office working with us on that. With what happened at Macocata Caves Campground last year, we've never really done one in our park. There's been the in-building situations, but we hadn't done one in our park. And so kudos to our park ranger, Ryan Roth. He put together a full SOP for it. Kind of trained our staff, and then we worked with the Sheriff's Department on how that would go should there be some sort of incident in the park. And so identified some areas that we want to do some more training on, and so we'll continue that. This year we're really kind of focused on very park-specific type safety training. We've done some wilderness first aid with all of our staff. We've done some other stuff, and so we kind of brought all that together for this event, this training last week. So that was really good, kind of eye-opening as to how that would go should something like that happen. But and so we're going to continue with that kind of stuff. We're going to do a missing persons training later on this year, and just things like that, trying to be that kind of really in-depth in-park training. And so other than that, it's spring. Things are getting busy. We had 20-something campers in the park, Big Hollow, over the weekend. We've got our camp post is in Big Hollow, and we're working on getting ones established north and south. We did finally get applications for camp posts at our Fort Filling Station and Wellington Recreation area. So I was worried there for a while we wouldn't have camp posts at those parks, but it looks like I think we're going to. So that's a good thing. Other than that, I think that's about it.
All right. Talk about that missing persons, you got that, Sheriff's White, you have a drone, don't you?
We do, yes.
Good.
We can launch a drone. It's an older drone, and it's certainly a different skill set that we're, there's a lot of code requirements, and there's some legal hurdles to get over when launching a drone. So we have some struggles in that area. There are some agencies around us that are actually much more prepared. They have newer modern drones. And we launched one last week on a person that was in the timber. They came up and assisted from Fort Madison, so we appreciated that. But our drone's really not set up to that extent.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sarah Marie, Auditor.
Good morning. Rural spring cleanup began yesterday, and that'll run through June 10th. So hopefully the ditches will not be full for Brian and his crew. The blood drive is May 12th, and there's one spot left. So if somebody wants to take it, it's free. The recorder could not make it today, so she wanted to remind everyone that they will be open this coming Saturday to do passports from 8 to 12. That's all I have.
How's the cleanup going up in Minneapolis, your town?
Slow, but it's getting there. Yeah. It's gonna be a process, but we'll get there.
All right. Brian Carter, Engineer.
Good morning. Bridgeport project is coming along. We're gonna do our first mainline pour tomorrow. So I think the rest of the mainline will probably be next week from the sounds of it for schedules, but it is coming along good. We are going to do some detour dust control. I shouldn't say detour because really it's a paved detour, but as usual, a lot of local traffic has a different route they're taking. And now that we've dried out so fast and gotten warm, it's pretty dusty down there. So we're gonna do it in front of some houses, some intersections, just to help take care of that on at least a short term. Bridge in 99 is about wrapped up. Could possibly pour the last of the concrete this week, just depending on their schedules. A little bit of grading left on that project too before that phase is completely done. And the bridge contractor really needs to be out of the way so that the grading can get done. But then it'll sit there until the next contractor contacts us about being able to start. So when I know more about that, I'll let you know. Of course, that next phase will be the closure that everybody already talked about this morning and nobody's looking forward to. But so when we know more about that, obviously we'll pass that on. And then little odd for April, but we're back to ditching on Beaverdale. So if you hear anything, we were there all last summer too, but just kind of kicking into operations that are not normal for April, I guess, as far as manpower. But we'll take it, take the early headway, nothing wrong with that.
That's all you got?
Yep.
We'll take it. All right, thank you, Brian. Gentlemen, any correspondence?
I have no.
I had none. I had a phone call this morning of correspondence from his, I'm not gonna give her name. But anyways, I do wanna say this, it was a misrepresentation or a misquote from the supervisor's desks, plural. We all recognize that anybody that is using needles probably is not a diabetic. So I don't know whoever read that article and they think that, that we're oblivious to a drug problem in Des Moines County. You're more than welcome to call up or email to double check and to make sure. But my daughter's diabetic, which I brought up at that meeting, and that she doesn't use needles anymore. She hasn't used needles in years. She uses caps. Most people have caps, so we're aware of that. I just wanted to make that clear so that anybody that's watching now, or anybody that wants to print that can put it down, that we are very aware that if people find needles, that it's probably not a diabetic. All righty then. And then the other one was Katie Music from the city of Burlington called us out, and she was running her mouth talking about the city of Burlington gives more blood. Woo! She was reaching there. But anyways, I just wanted to let everybody know that the county that we're in on this, and anybody that tries to loud talk the county, that they'll have to loud talk all of us, and that you can take appointments. They're still taking appointments. I think there's a couple left, but the city really got a jump on us, and I think they really tried to hog all the appointments. We'll see how that turns out, but nobody calls out the county and nobody puts baby in a corner. Thomas?
I had hepatitis A when I was about 15, and I can't give blood.
All righty then. James?
There's one spot at 11:10.
James said they won't take us. I'm gonna give blood twice.
I want to see you afterwards.
Yeah, they roll him out. He looked like a prune when they got done with him. All right. Now this brings us to discussion and vote, 5A. 5A is a resolution, 2023-019, and a final plat for Twin Oaks County or Country Estates. Jared.
This is a first major subdivision we've had in a while. It has 7 lots off of Beaverdale Road, a little ways north of Flint Bottom. This is, the preliminary plat was approved by the board back in June 2021. It took a little while to get the logistics together for building the new road to serve the lots. It's just a general overview. The 4 lots in the middle are those that are intended for initial development. There's also 2 lots along Beaverdale Road that aren't planned for initial development but would be available for that in the future for residential development. And then that 1 lot in the back, lot 7, is going to be sold to the adjoining neighbor, since it's kind of just a little awkward piece in the back of that's hard to get to, that doesn't really, it's just part of the parcel that's being split up here. The staff has reviewed the design plans for the roadway and has since inspected the roadway after installment. The timing didn't quite work out to get everything done before the zoning commission meeting we had back in late March. So initially we inspected the surfacing of the roadway before they finished the ditch work, because it had been raining quite a bit beforehand. So and speaking of drones, when I sent the staff a report to the board members last week, that included some ground level and some drone photos to give some perspective on the roadway that was installed. The zoning commission meeting held in March 23rd. No major issues. I think the photos were helpful in showing what had been completed. And then some initial concerns that there was some ponding areas along the roadway, but of course that was to be addressed through the ditch work that had not yet been completed at that time. And so it was approved, or the board, or the commission, I'm sorry, recommended approval of the subdivision plat with the condition that the ditch work be completed to the county's satisfaction prior to the board approving the plat. And so last week we were able to go out and inspect the roadway with the completed ditches. There was also some riprap around the culvert, because there's a culvert that passes underneath to drains the farm field down into a ravine on the property, and everything seemed to be consistent with what had been proposed. And so with that, we're pretty much ready to go with Twin Oaks Country Estates. If anybody has any questions or comments.
Move to approve resolution 2023-019.
Second. Moved in second. Sarah Marie.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yep.
You?
Garrett, and thank you for your hard work on that. You always do a good job.
It's fun to actually get out there and have some experience inspecting a brand new roadway and all that. We don't get these larger subdivisions very often, so.
Well, you got Mr. Carter there to keep you in line.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to 5B. 5B is a resolution to oppose SF 550. Whereas the voters of Des Moines County and cities within the county have voted to enact a 1 cent local option sales tax in accordance with Iowa Code 423B, or LOST. Whereas the revenue derived from the tax is used 50% for road and bridge improvements, 20% for rural services, and 10% for the sheriff's office, 10% for the county attorney's office, and 10% for economic development. Whereas, I can let you take a picture of this too. Whereas the residents of Des Moines County have grown to rely on these revenues as a means to make extra improvements to roads, bridges, beyond the capability of existing funding options, to further support law enforcement and assist economic development, all while helping lowering property taxes. Whereas the 2023 legislative session has seen the introduction of SF 550, which proposes to convert the local option sales tax efforts into a statewide sales tax and impose a local option sales tax in every jurisdiction, thereby triggering the constitutional amendment to require an allocation of 3/8 of a cent to the Iowa Water and Land Legacy IWLL Trust Fund. And whereas Des Moines County has sincere concerns about the legislator's ability to annually backfill revenues lost due to SF 550, and whereas Des Moines County has concerns that SF 550 will undermine local control and prevent backfill revenues from being used perpetually in the methods that the voters of Des Moines County have already approved. Therefore, the Des Moines County Board of Supervisors would like to express their support of the current local option sales tax. The current law best represents the interest of voters, maintains local control, and lowers property taxes, which are common goals of the county and the Iowa legislature. Can I get a motion to approve of this, or would anybody like, Thomas, would you like to?
Nope, that's clear enough. Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved in second. Chair Marie.
Tom Broker,
Yes.
Jim Carrey,
Yeah.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes, please.
Never backfill.
Say that again, James. Might not have heard you.
If it goes through, they'll never backfill it. The state takes money and they don't give it back.
Sarah, I'll grab a color copy of that. There's a central county engineer that's collecting all of them to pass on, so.
Okay, I have 3 copies, you can have them.
We should probably send it to our legislators also.
Okay.
Send a copy up to the governor too.
Yeah, that's.
Moving right along to 5C. 5C is an abatement request by the city of Burlington for parcel 1605-453-007. Attention Des Moines County Supervisors, dear Sarah, the city is requesting the release of any and all property taxes for the 2021-2022 taxpayers associated with the following property: parcel ID 1605-453-007. The location is 901 Spruce Street, and the legal description is Burlington Barrett, subblock 956, lots 5 east and a half, and east and a half, lot 6. This property was in a severe state of dilapidation and was subsequently donated to the city via quitclaim deed from the previous owner, Jack Starr. The building has been, since been demolished. If you have any questions, we can contact Katie Music. Do I have a
motion to approve the request.
Second.
Moved in second. Sarah Marie?
Tom Broker?
Yes.
Jim Carrey?
Here.
Shane McCampbell?
Yep. Okay, moving along brings us to 5D, which is an agreement between Des Moines County, Iowa, and Anderson, Larkin and Company. Before I read on some of this, Jimmy or Thomas, do you want to address this while we're doing this, or?
Anderson and Larkin, the county's auditor that goes over our books annually. They've been very easy to work with, they do a good job, and importantly, they didn't raise their prices. So I will preempt anything else and make a motion to approve.
I think that sounded fantastic, just the way you laid it out. James?
I'll second that.
That's what it is. Sarah Marie?
Tom Broker?
Yes.
Jim Carrey?
Yeah.
Shane McCampbell?
Yes. I gotta put some ink in there. Is this just me on these? Then I'll just do it later. Okay. I know you guys have been patient today, we appreciate it. It's a long meeting, we've been here for a long time. Just calm down. Please, just calm down the back, chief. Next, we have personnel actions, which is 5E. We have, the first one is from the recorder's office. Her name is Renee Wellborn, she's a clerk 2. It's her anniversary, 24-month anniversary. Her previous rate was $34,856.11. Her new rate will be $35,685.88, effective 4/12/2023.
Second.
Jim
Sarah Marie?
Carrey?
Yes.
Tom Broker?
Yes.
Shane McCampbell?
Yep. The other one we have is from the local health department. It's Jesse Morgan. It's a resignation, so we appreciate you, Jesse. Her resignation effective 4/4/2023. I'm sorry, her resignation is effective 4/7/2023.
Move to approve.
Second.
Sarah Marie?
Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Tom Broker?
Yes.
Shane McCampbell?
Yep. And then the last one is Tanner Whalen. He's a correctional officer, full-time. He's a new hire, so we appreciate you. His new rate of pay is $41,362.40. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Sarah Marie?
Tom Broker?
Yes.
Jim Carrey?
Yeah.
Shane McCampbell?
Yes. We also have reports. We have the recorder's reports of fees collected for March 2023. We have sheriff's monthly report for March 2023. And those will be available for you at in the auditor's office. You can read these at your leisure. Thank you. Thanks, James. You're all right. Some days you're all right, James. Brings us to 5G, which is minutes for a regular meeting on April 4th, 2023. Can I get a motion to approve minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Sarah Marie?
Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Tom Broker?
Yes.
Shane McCampbell?
Yep. All right. Number 6, do we have any other business?
I have none.
I have
7, future agenda items. Number 8, committee reports.
I have none.
I had a youth meeting and, man, they won't even let me participate. I've got nothing to. Number 9 brings us to public input.
Whoa.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I stepped on.
I attended the County Safety Committee meeting. We toured the community services facility. Found it to be, the safety precautions to be at least adequate.
It was a very nice meeting. I appreciate Ken letting us invite us over.
It was.
It's nice to have you.
And I attended, Grove Greater Burlington had a round table, I believe Mr. Berg was there, discussing population growth and stability or vice versa, something like that. Interesting discussion. That's all I've got.
And Pam's not mad at you? We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Just got home last night, she hadn't had time.
All right. We'll check back with you next week, friend. Okay. Now time for public input. We would love to hear from you. If you have any comments regarding the meeting or something that was on the agenda today, we want to hear from you. You can call us at 319-753-8203, extension 4, or you can email us at board@dmcounty.com. Again, you can call us at 319-753-8203, extension 4, or you can email us at board@dmcounty.com. Again, if none of those work for you, you are always welcome to show up at Tom Broker's house. He loves that. So can you put us on a timer, Jimmy? And
Incidentally, someone forgot to water the orchid as instructed. You put ice cubes on it and it died.
Incidentally.
I might get the blame for that.
Incidentally. I would like a lawyer to give me a qualification. When somebody starts off with that word, what does that usually mean? We'll talk about it later, Trent. But you are still welcome to call in. We'd love to hear from you, or you can email us. Again, and you don't have to do it during the meeting. You can email us at any time. We would definitely return your email. James, anything interesting to say?
I'd like to hear more about the population growth. You guys come up with any good ideas or?
Thomas?
They're both kind of.
Thomas, give us your wisdom on how to grow Burlington.
They had a really good turnout. I thought the sheriff was there. They had people from the city of Burlington, from West Burlington, from various businesses. It was, everybody looks at it from a different perspective. The sheriff mentioned, or somebody mentioned law enforcement, and I thought he addressed that very well. I said they should put more pressure on local government entities. Be careful what you ask for, I know. But there were lots of started good ideas.
Great.
So as part of the Greater Burlington Partnership is working on a strategic 5-year plan. They're getting ready to roll that out. So as they refine the plan, they brought in groups for 3 different meetings. One was on tourism and recreation. The one Mr. Broker's talking about was on housing and population stability, and then the third one was on economic development. And so it just got into the weeds a little bit to kind of refine their overall 5-year strategic plan
Awesome.
over 3-4 days last week.
Well, thank you for participating in that, guys.
Ken, on the mobile crisis, do you know if either one of those providers is able to meet? My understanding, they were hoping to find a provider that would be able to say that we're gonna be able to, from request time to response, that they'd be in person within an hour. Do you know if those providers are able to meet that?
I think so. I think the highest scoring provider, just looking through the summary that I've gotten so far, did say something about being within an hour. So I think, and the contract will say you have to meet the standards of the Iowa legislature for mobile crisis, and I think that might be in the standard that they have to be there within an hour. So I'm hopeful that that's true. I know one of them said that they would locate somewhere near the center of our region, so just having a location in the center of our region should make that possible, so.
And would that be in person?
Yeah, I believe it, yeah, there's an in-person option, there might be also some teleconnecting, but I believe in-person is part of it, I think, so. I need to hear more of it myself too, it's pretty early. But yeah, that in-person is pretty important for mobile crisis, so. That's what we would expect.
How
The
was
last
my
time that we
capacity?
tried it, it wasn't always in person during COVID. And that was one of the weak parts of the last time we tried it. So,
Trying to get somebody in crisis to talk on a phone and
yeah,
pretty difficult.
yeah, so I hope, we're gonna hear more, but I would hope it's all mostly in person.
I think that's been well over 2 minutes, I believe. And nobody has contacted us, so again, we appreciate that. Again, you can always contact us. This gentleman to my left is Thomas Broker. This gentleman to my right, silver-haired devil, is James Carey. I'm Shane McCampbell. We're proud to be your supervisors, and with an eye, we're adjourned.
Aye.
Thank you. We have a work session following in about 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Jim, what's their excuses to balance that?
I just love to do that, man. I'll never get a chance to any other way. We're here for a work session. Sarah Marie, we ready to roll?
Yes.
We're here for a work session with the Burlington Fire Department regarding EMS Essential Service designation. We're going to get that process started. Can we get everybody to introduce themselves so we know who's here for the record? Not everybody at once.
Well, I'll start. So I'm Chad Bird, I'm the city manager for the city of Burlington, and I'm here to support our public safety.
My name's Nathan Toops, I'm the deputy chief of Burlington Fire Department.
Matt Trexel, Fire Chief, Burlington.
Luke Griffiths, firefighter for Burlington, paramedic for Mediapolis, and I'm running the Moines County EMS Association.
All right, Jim Mahaffey, Director of Superior Ambulance, Director of Mediapolis Ambulance, and Yellow Spring Township Trustee.
Dan Word, Yellow Spring Township Trustee and President of Northern Des Moines County Ambulance Service.
Chuck Massner, member of the Community Ambulance Service and a trustee, City of Mediapolis representative to the Community Ambulance Service in Mediapolis.
Trent Hinkelbig, Assistant Flint County Attorney.
Brian Carter, County Engineer.
Lisa Schaefer, county attorney.
Kevin Glendenning, Des Moines County Sheriff.
Colin Gerson, Des Moines County Chief Director.
Chris Lee, Conservation Director.
All right. And you know these handsome two gentlemen sitting beside me, so let's get this party started.
You want me to start? Please. Okay. I know I'm listed down here, Burlington Fire Department, but really I'm bringing this on behalf of all of EMS in Des Moines County. We're asking the Board of Supervisors to adopt a resolution declaring EMS as an essential service in Des Moines County. I don't know if you know, across the state of Iowa, EMS is not an essential service unless the county declares it to be. And that's been the case forever until, I think, 2020, the state adopted a piece of legislation that allows the counties to designate EMS as an essential service, and along with that, then a funding source. There's two different ways to fund EMS, and so largely in the past, it's been the costs are bared by cities, larger cities. The smaller cities or communities, it's been on a volunteer basis. So as you probably noticed, like Lee County recently did this, and they now have funding for their EMS. Their county was funding it just out of the general fund. EMS, as a general rule, we don't generate enough revenue through patient transports to support ourselves. And so there has to be some other mechanism to have an ambulance available when you call 911, which is the whole purpose of this piece of legislation. How it works is on the county end. They publish it for 60 days. You have to vote on it 3 consecutive meetings. And then after that, that's when I say after that, when the real work would begin. The county's supposed to work with the local EMS. You come up with an advisory committee. And that committee gets together and determines the needs of EMS in the community. So at that point, we're gonna talk to all the different agencies in Des Moines County. What are your needs? Then determine what the tax would look like after that. So there's a property tax available, it's up to 75 cents. And then there's a income tax surcharge, which I don't think anybody's actually using that funding stream currently.
1% surcharge.
It's a 1% surcharge on your income tax? That'd be popular.
Yeah. I think that's why, I think a couple counties tried that and it didn't work. So whatever this committee comes up with for the tax, it does have to be voted on at a referendum, 60% approval to pass that countywide. So it's been pretty successful. Most of the counties that have had this come to a vote, it's passed. Again, I think the only 2 that failed last time around were the ones that used an income tax or had that as an option for the funding.
So yeah, as far as procedurally, he's pretty much spot on. If this is something the county decides it wants to do. So really there's essentially different code sections that can be used to generate financing for EMS. So your municipalities can use 357F. And I think most of them do, and that's how they have a separate line item, and that's how they get funding for EMS.
Is, not to interrupt you, is that how 357S, is that the code section that Burlington uses, or?
I don't think so.
No, we're just using general fund tax dollars. That is an EMS district you're talking about, that
Well,
you have to
that's-
establish it.
That's one of the second
Yeah.
options, an EMS district. If we had an EMS district, which, as far as the legislation for an EMS district stands, we do not. That would have to be dissolved, the county would have to pick up, any of the debts would have to pick, would become in its place.
But we don't have one of those?
We do not, we were talking, that's what we were talking about with you guys up north.
Oh.
Doing, but we do not have one of those in the county.
I attended a meeting several months ago.
Last
Dan
November.
was there, and and they discussed having an EMS sort of like area, townships or parts of townships banding together. It was, I don't.
It's called an Emergency Medical Service District. And so, and then what we have, so you're up in the Northern District, you're just all volunteer. I mean, literally just all volunteer. And then you guys are pay, and then you get taxpayer dollars, but it's on a per rata basis, right?
From the townships, it's a.
Not Burlington, but your association, right?
Oh, the Des Moines County?
Yeah, with West Burlington,
That's a fair question.
Danville, Henderson County,
That's
all the
that's
townships.
Burlington Fire
Several
Department.
The
townships.
Burlington Fire Department gets,
That's, yeah. There's only two transporting services for 911 in Des Moines County, Community Ambulance and Burlington Fire Department.
Right, and so that one's paid for from people kind of with, on a per rata basis, as opposed to,
And again, I apologize, just trying to be clear. So like by pro rata, you mean, so Burlington would look at the top population of a township or a city or something like that, say you've
it's
got.
like per use, you're right.
Per use, okay.
So what they have is a 3-year rolling percentage. So say they have $100,000 in expenses, which is a nice little number, but it makes for simple math, right? And say if West Burlington had 20 ambulance calls, and Burlington had 50 ambulance calls, and Danville had 20, and then the other townships each had 1 or 2 apiece, they would each pay, that 50%, 30%, 20, or that 1 or 2%. So it's kind of like that. Right?
Yeah, I hate to, that's how we used to do it. We're now on we charge on per capita. And so sometime around
per capita?
2018, we started doing, anybody outside of Burlington and the townships that surround, so Danville Township, Pleasant Grove Township, Gulfport, Illinois, they just pay a straight per capita, $7 per capita every year. That way that you're talking about was very complicated to try to figure out, because it would incentivize us to say we lost money, because if we lost money with the ambulance service, then they would pay more. And it just didn't seem like a very good everybody's like, well, you're losing all this money, why do we have an ambulance service? Like, well.
So just to make it clear for me, so let's say there's 1,000 people in the Downville Township, and if it's, what did you say, $7 or $8 a
$7
piece?
per
Then they would,
capita.
then they would pay Burlington $7,000.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
per year, yeah.
And then the townships, the Quad Township, the 4 townships that immediately surround Burlington, there's a township fire tax. Set up for fire, it's 60-some cents.
And it's limited. They've all topped it out. It's limited
Yeah.
by legislation.
Yeah,
So
those townships just, whatever they collect, they pay the city of Burlington for fire and EMS combined.
Would that go away if there was a district and a levy countywide?
No,
Okay.
no, that's set up as a fire tax, and that's kind of where we run into a little bit of difficulty, because we go to Danville Township and we say we want to charge something for an ambulance service, it directly impacts the Danville Fire Department. They're the fire department for the Danville Township. I'm not sure what their collection is, but they use that 66-cent levy to support their fire department. If we come in and say we need $7 per capita, that comes right out of their dollars for the fire department. So that always creates a rub when we're trying to get funding for EMS. There's only that one tax set up, and it's set up really as a fire tax. It's been that same funding forever.
Does it have
That's
to
the
be
same
set
way
up
we
that
have
way?
up in northern Des Moines County with the 5 townships, and with the northern Des Moines County Fire Department. They use the same tax, which is topped out at 60-some cents. It's used 100% for the fire department, 0 for the ambulance. So if the ambulance was to try to use that tax in northern Des Moines County, it'd take it dollar for dollar away from the fire department. So we're in the same boat, basically, up there with the ambulance service.
So that's good to hear if they're already doing that. And it's also good to hear that they don't have a 357F. Now, any municipality, if they wanted, could put together a 357F. So if this is something we want to do, and I don't know if it is, but if it is, I think we want to have almost a 28E agreement or some sort of agreement put together that none of the municipalities have a 357F. Because what that would do is they would then be able to opt out of that tax, right? So say Burlington says they don't have a 357F levy today, they can then turn around the year after this is implemented, pass a 357 levy, and then they no longer have to pay this tax. And he's right, you're right to say income tax would probably be unpopular. That's a chunk, 1% is a chunk. 0.75%.
And I apologize, and some of this is gonna bounce off me a little bit. The 357F, nobody uses that in Des Moines County, is what I'm understanding. So.
Well, Meepo doesn't, Burlington
looking
doesn't,
at-
I don't know about West Burlington, I don't know about Danville.
Okay, and that would be,
We'd have to find out.
that would be a township tax? Or
That would be a municipality that would have
a
an
28E, okay.
A municipality could pass that. If a township wanted to do something, their avenue would be the Emergency Medical Service District, which we've talked about for northern Des Moines County, trying to generate revenue. And that would have to be subsumed into, that one, they're saying if that exists, it has to go away and be subsumed into this new board, which is called the County Emergency Medical Service System Advisory Council. It's Advisory Council. So if one of the townships or somewhere out in the county wanted to do that, this would say, no, you can't, because the county's already collecting taxes.
Can you tell me the difference between a 357F and a 28E agreement? What's the difference?
Well, a municipality would just pass to say, hey, we want a levy, we, the city of Burlington, want a levy for EMS tax, and then levy it. So they're not working with any other entity, right? It's just, that's the way they chose to fund their emergency medical services.
Okay, and I misunderstood you too. I thought you said if you were gonna use the 357F, it would require a 28E. Okay,
No.
okay, I misunderstood you then.
I'm saying that we currently have a 28E that we kind of use as a sharing agreement, and that's how that's how it's currently financed here in the county. Using
So-
general funds or the township funds to then pay.
It's my understanding, part of the reason we're having this meeting is what we're doing isn't working for, like, northern part of Des Moines County.
Correct. So, yeah, so the reason we were looking at the 357 was, we're dependent on volunteers. The system's failing. I wasn't saying it's failed. During the day, we have like 3 people as leaving their work. Our ambulance numbers are skyrocketing. We're averaging 1 a day versus we used to have like 170 a year. So these individuals are leaving their work. Well, they can't just keep leaving work. I mean, imagine you guys have your supervisor meeting. He's like, oh, sorry, I got an ambulance call, I gotta go.
We would be a poor example.
Yeah, but no, I mean, that
We could probably, it would be a big deal.
So they reach out and says, we can't do this anymore, because they might have multiple calls in a day. And I agree with them, we can't keep continuing doing that the way we're doing it. We're not able to cover anymore, we're asking, several times Burlington and Wapello to cover our area, because we can't guarantee an ambulance anymore. I mean, and we're somewhat unique in the fact, Mediapolis hasn't drawn any taxes for as long as I remember, because we are very self-supported. We do enough calls, we charge enough, because we do insurance money for those calls, that we're able to maintain our system, because we're not paying
We're
anybody.
volunteered,
Yeah, well, we kind of realized we have to fix this. We had two options. One, reach out to the city of Burlington, say, hey, can you cover the rest of the county? And two was look at what Wapalos did is you hire a full-time person to cover those shifts that you need to do. So it's a partial volunteer, partial full-time service. That's what Wapalos gone to, and they got to this situation, and it's working very, very well for them. Burlington, we reached out, Burlington are like, we can't. Right now they're covering Henderson County, because Henderson County has basically failed, across the river. Lee County failed, that's why they got the situation they're in right now. The counties around us are failing, EMS, because there's never been a funding source. And we've so dependent on volunteers, that the volunteerism ain't there anymore. I mean, people love to volunteer, but people who love to volunteer also are very good people. They're also very involved in their church. I'm very involved in scouts. They just don't just do the ambulance. People don't go home and stay home when they're off work anymore. That's just not the way society is anymore. So those volunteers just aren't there. You know, the most popular question I get is running a volunteer service is, how many people do you need? Well, I need 2. They just gotta be there 24/7. I mean, there is no answer to that. I can have 40, but if I can't cover 24/7, I can't cover it. So that's an impossible question to answer. But that 347, there's a lot of that's actually harder to do than what we're proposing, asking for do as a county. The 347, we actually have to go out and get petition signed to do it. We have to look at, I think, a certain percentage of.
Is that 357?
So, no, he's talking about the emergency medical service district.
Yeah, if we went to establish this district, we had to go out to property owners, we have to get a certain percentage in to sign a petition, put it on the ballot, and then we have to separate agriculture from residential. It's very difficult, but not saying impossible, but we have to do something or we don't have an ambulance service in northern Des Moines County, plain and simple. So we have to do something. So then, of course, Burlington's like, well, look, our counties around us are doing this, going ahead and doing the whole county doing EMS central service, and are passing, which is much easier to do. It's you guys making a resolution, we're taxing straight across the board like we do for fire. It's very clean cut. It's a lot easier to do it this way. Now, my biggest fear, I'll flat out say, my biggest fear is northern Des Moines County, we know we're gonna not have an ambulance service if we don't pass it. I have no doubt in my mind we'll get 60% in northern Des Moines County, none. So my biggest fear, obviously, going down this road is the fact that now we're depending on the city of Burlington to pass it, because we can go 100%, if the city of Burlington only goes 40%, it's failed.
It requires a 60% to pass.
Yeah, across the board. You
It
can't
does.
nitpick it across.
And so any of these municipalities, if any of them were to have a 357F, if they already had their own levy, they would be out of the vote. So say if West Burlington separately levies for EMS already, then they would be out of the vote, because they wouldn't be part of the tax, they wouldn't be part of, you see what I'm saying? Because their city, they're already paying it on their city tax bill, whatever they, however much they decide, they might say a penny, and we might say 75 cents, or vice versa, but they're separate, they're unique and separate, because their municipality decided.
So what you're saying is, let's say it's West Burlington, they've got that 357, and they're levying X amount. If you were gonna do this countywide, they would not be involved in that. They wouldn't vote on it, and they would not participate in it.
Correct.
Because they've already got a 357F.
Yes, they've already got the,
Okay, okay, I apologize again.
Yep, exactly.
Are there any in the county that have it now?
I don't know the answer to that question.
No.
This is
fairly new legislation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fairly new.
I mean, when this first passed, we went to the Iowa EMS conference and they really explained it. And somebody goes, well, how's this gonna work? I mean, what's this look like actually going out and making essential service? And their answer, people wrote the law, their answer was like, well, we're gonna wait and see how it works when people try to do it. That was literally their answer. And now we've had some people trying to do it. So now we learned, right? So, yeah, so we didn't want to go out in front right off the bat. So as far as Mediapolis goes, what we're doing in the meantime is we've reached out to the city. He's also the city councilman. Reached out to the city to see if we can sign a 2080 agreement to basically hire an individual full-time in Mediapolis to help that Monday through Friday to cover those shifts, work shifts. And we can do that because we're fortunate. He'll tell you, he's on the service, he can tell you too. I'm very, they tell me what they need and I tell them what they really need versus what they want, you know, that thing. So we have enough money in the bank, we can probably sustain it for 2 years, paying somebody, just based on those revenues, but after that, it's gone. And with that, the ambulance service is gone. So, I mean, there's an end date here, and if you look at this resolution, we can't even start taxing until January 1st of next year, even if it passed this year. And we would get those, you know, that revenue from that for almost a year and a half. So, you know, this is kind of we gotta do it now if we're gonna keep an ambulance service in northern Des Moines County. And honestly, I think you're gonna have some big news out of Henderson County. I know Lomax just shut down.
We just signed a contract for Lomax, we're covering that now.
I don't think you can start taxing next.
You cannot.
January, you would have to wait till the end of the fiscal year to get it, but so the earliest that tax could be collected would be in September.
24.
I honestly thought the code said January 1st.
And it might, I'm just saying, you get your budget certified at the end of March.
Yeah, I got you.
So, in the fiscal 24 year that we will start in 3 months, doesn't end until June 30th of 2024. So the next fiscal budget the city and the counties work on will be the fiscal 25 budget, and that would be the earliest that could be, and it has to pass if we don't have any 357Fs, then it would be a countywide vote.
Yep. Yeah, and that's probably, if that's the case, it's probably the most likely opportunity that it would get passed, I would think. I mean, you guys know that better than I do. But, yeah, as long as there's no 357Fs, then it'd be a countywide vote, and everybody would be in the same boat.
And don't let me interrupt you guys, is there any other part of the county that's in, no offense, is poorly, you know, is poor shape or in as much risk of losing that service as northern Des Moines County?
I think
it-
I mean, the south
I
part.
mean, just, for all of the rural area, all the way up to Pleasant, we go all the way to Pleasant Grove Township, Danville Township, Middletown, West Burlington. What they pay for EMS right now is, I think altogether, somewhere around $30,000 a year for 24/7, full-time EMS, basically because the city of Burlington, this sounds wrong, but we're subsidizing all those because there's no funding. You can't go to Pleasant Grove Township and say, we need more. They're like, we don't have any money. We're already, every time we give you $1, we're taking $1 from Danville Fire Department. And then I'm the unpopular fire chief because I'm like, I understand you don't have a lot of revenue, and here I am asking for some of your money.
I understand, but
So-
but you guys go down to like Augusta along the Skunk River.
That's the township,
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think one's gonna get into, if this is decided that this is gonna be the revenue funding source that the county wants to choose, what might be really tough is in the next step of setting up the advisory council, because, you know, you're gonna have other places saying, hey, we have emergency response, we just don't have paramedics. And how do you slice out those first responders versus the paramedics? But that's gonna be part of how do we set that board up? And where does this funding go?
So just a couple comments, I think. So Trent, what you're talking about with the 2080 is working with the local jurisdictions to say that we would not start our own 357 if this were to move forward, so that we don't bypass a countywide effort.
I think we would want every municipality to sign a piece of paper saying, and the problem with that is, any one city council can say, yep, that's what that city council wanted to do, this is what we wanna do.
Right.
And the problem we have is, oh, by the way, we have this tax that's already been approved, the tax doesn't go away, so you have people out in the county paying a tax, and people in the city may not have to pay.
Because they have a three
Because they
fifty-seven.
have a 357, so they decide they're levying a different, their city council decides how much they wanna levy, where here it's the advisory council, the emergency management advisory council.
I think the other thing that's important to consider for local government is that we're so dependent on property taxes. While yes, this is another property tax, it's a separate levy, but it's not general fund. And when we see property tax reform year over year, that makes it more and more difficult to operate our general funds, we need to look at alternative revenue sources or alternative ways to support the essential services in our community, and this is one tool to do that. Because it levies something specific, countywide, that's for a set obligated purpose, right? And so it relieves all of our general funds to do the other things that we need to do. And I think that's one of the key public policy initiatives of this entire conversation is how can we ensure a dedicated stream of revenue to provide these essential services that are being hamstrung by our already constricted general funds.
Dumb question, but I know the Senate study bill, whatever the hell it is, they talk about getting rid of all these other levies. I'm assuming this one's safe because it's new.
Yeah, probably, right? Probably, that's the answer. I don't know.
At least for 15 years, because then you're gonna do it again.
Yeah.
The other thing, understand, the resolution, you guys making a resolution saying we're essential service, if the vote fails, the resolution goes away. Now, in saying that, when Lee County failed, they just had no ambulance service. So it just came out of their general fund, that's how they're supporting their, so it's not like you can just, well, it's not our problem. Essentially, you could say we don't have an ambulance service in Des Moines County and that's it, because it's not required by the state of Iowa as essential. So, but can you imagine, I mean, nobody's gonna go down that road. So Lee County's been paying out of their general fund, and now they passed what we're asking you to do, so they can now start using those funds for that ambulance service. The other thing to understand is, you're talking about paramedics, there's a shortage of paramedics like every other healthcare field. And bad part about Lee County passing that is that means they can start upping their wages a little bit. They're gonna start pulling our staff away from us, and because we are not staffed. Best example is Saturday, a week ago. I mean, I said I was service director for Superior Ambulance. I'm administrator role only, but not on that ambulance for a year and a half. Saturday, I covered the ambulance to cover Burlington 911 calls for a funeral. Mediapolis had a call. We just had a probie on. So I said, go ahead and respond, and we'll tier. And so I ended up tiering, covering, as Superior, I was covering Burlington,
What do you mean
tiering with
tier?
Mediapolis.
I don't know.
Because I wasn't in Mediapolis, because I was down here covering Burlington with Superior.
What's a tier?
A tier is,
Water
providing.
that falls out of your eye, but what do you?
Yeah, providing usually a paramedic level. This was for an unconscious patient that came out, so we wanted a paramedic level there to care for that patient. So a tier is that they're gonna provide you a paramedic, they're gonna meet up that ambulance, provide them a paramedic.
Okay.
To give a higher level of care.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's essentially where we're at. I mean, I said I had a identity crisis that day, I didn't know who I was. I was like Mediapolis, was like Superior, was like Burlington, I mean, it's just, that's where we're at. And it scares me that we have our counties go around us passing these resolutions, and they're gonna up their prices, Superior up their prices. Well, I mean, up price, not prices, up their salary wages. And what happened? Everybody upped them right along with us. It was great for like 3 months. Now we can't get anybody in the door. There's times we don't cover, we're calling Burlington to cover. They can't cover after 8, Superior do transfers, and those are important too.
How long does it take an ambulance to respond, say if it was gonna come from Burlington? How long does it take to get to Yarmouth? Well, I mean, what would be your response time?
Just 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Yeah. That was the main reason why when they asked, could we just cover their calls in Mediapolis? Like, well, we could, but our time, take us a while to get there. We really just can't add on 400 calls a year to what we're doing. We're already really busy. We'd almost have to hire staff, but at that point, if we're gonna hire staff, why wouldn't they just hire their own staff? Made a lot more sense.
And that's why then when we look at emergency response as a whole, Yarmouth has a fire department. They'll have people come and they'll be on scene and they'll be handling the initial, the initial survey and going through those steps, whatever the terminology is today. And then when the ambulance gets there with the paramedic, now that's the chief medical officer there. He's going to, or she is going to take over, right? So that's why I say I think if it's decided that this is the financing arm we want to use, or we want to at least put to the taxpayers, then I think the next question is how do we come up with who this advisory council is? And I think because there are things that aren't just necessarily paramedics that are being provided as you get further out in the county that also needs funding as well. Because it's part of their links in the chain. Does that make sense?
Are you talking about fire? Fire or?
Well, they
You have to
have
be specific for me, I apologize.
Sure, they have ranks too, so they'll show up, and I don't know what the capacity of each of those are, but they have the ability to go in with people that have been trained, and terminology's changed over the years, like, but, it used to be first responders and, EMTAs, eyes, all that. I think they've eliminated all those kind of intermediaries, so I don't know the terminology, but they have firefighters on duty with various levels of medical training, first responder training, that will get in there, do the initial assessment, be on the radio, hey, this is who we got. So the paramedics, when they show up, I'm assuming you know what you're coming into, right? And so the ball's already rolling. And so that helps, that response time to get, say, to Meepo is gonna be a little bit farther, right? Or to get all the way up to the northern parts of the county is gonna be a little bit farther, but you already have somebody on scene that's more local. That's what I'm saying, those are links in the chain.
So there's about, what we're trying to talk about is there are first responder services in Des Moines County. West Burlington, they do first responder. Danville does first responder. Yarmouth, I believe. Mediapolis Fire Department doesn't do any EMS response, so they don't, correct me if I'm wrong, if Mediapolis ambulance goes out, they're it. They're the first and only person going to the EMS call. So if it's way down on 99 somewhere, they don't know anything until they show up. Or in Mediapolis. Yarmouth, they have their fire department, they'll respond. We usually have the advantage of, Danville Fire Department does first response, they meet us at the scene normally. West Burlington, we're so close, we generally arrive before West Burlington first responders get there. But that is, I know other counties, they have, whatever the tax ended up being in the funding, some of them did share that with first responder agencies. But I would think Danville for us, if we're gonna have a countywide tax, some of those agreements maybe change where we don't take that money from the townships anymore, so they would keep that full amount that they were taxing from those townships. So that would help them.
It could, yeah, I think that's what I'm saying, when we reorganize this, we need to make sure that we put it in, so that's all encompassed in there. That's almost more where we're getting our hands on the meatloaf, is that the analogy? right? You know, where we've gotta figure out, okay, make sure everybody's involved. And then, do you need to have that separate 28E, or is it all going through the advisory council? Which might make it just a lot easier for everybody, frankly.
Is this gonna guarantee that we've got a paramedic in every situation or not?
No. Like, an ambulance can staff an EMT and a trained CPR trained driver. Mediapolis goes out that way majority of the time. The 2 paramedics in Mediapolis are sitting right here. So if you have a call up there, there's no paramedic that show up. Now, I can tell you, most calls don't need a paramedic, so which is good. That's why we have that tier system in place. It'd be ideally, yeah, we'd have a paramedic, we'd hire a paramedic in Mediapolis to do that full-time position. They're not out there.
When you say, just to be clear, what call, just give me an example of a call that you don't need a paramedic.
Fallen, I can't get most calls.
Okay.
Broken bone.
Broken bone.
Routine shortness
I
of
mean,
breath.
if you fall down and break your arm, you like a paramedic because they can give you pain meds, but you don't have to have a paramedic.
Okay, so
EMT
I just wanted
let
to,
it-
again, I just wanted to make
you
sure
know,
that I had my
they
hands
can
around
do
it.
blood
Okay, I got you.
control. Paramedic pushes drugs. I mean, we do a couple other things, but the main thing, we're pushing drugs. So if you need a drug to fix your heart, puking, I mean, if you're puking like crazy, we can give you a drug to help out on that, but you don't have to have that. You can just
Right. I got
hold
you.
a bag all the way to the hospital.
I got you, I got you.
And if you need a paramedic, if the EMT gets there and they need a paramedic, say for a cardiac issue, there's always a paramedic they can get from Burlington, or they'll use Wapello. So nobody that needs a paramedic, I mean, if you need one, you'll get one. It might not be on the first rig in, but there's one available. I don't think there's ever been a time where you couldn't get a paramedic from somewhere
You guys have always
to show up, so.
Usually it's along 61, we meet on 61, pull over, they hop in, and keep
And
going.
we, I mean,
You can transport with an EMS, but you can't get the drugs.
Basically, there's certain drugs they can give, but yeah, that's
And
basically.
how much more training, here's what always gets me, this might be off here. There's RNs out there that's more qualified than a lot of their paramedics, per se, to give these shots and that. They give them every day. They start drugs every day in the hospital. What's the difference?
there's an RN exemption, if they wanna get their paramedic and get on the ambulance, it's not that hard. They could volunteer for Mediapolis, they don't do it.
So I can tell you that we've had RNs in Minneapolis, and unfortunately, they are not qualified to be paramedics. There is a huge difference between having a doctor ordering something and you writing down symptoms and calling a doctor and getting an order versus you have a set of protocols, you're doing your best guess, and you're making those decisions. There is a huge difference in that.
Okay.
Now, the RNs that have worked out as paramedics are usually the RNs that work in the emergency department. Those have seemed to work well and are, at least in Minneapolis. So the medical director has to sign off what level they can do, and generally they will, our current medical director for our county will not just blankly sign off on an RN. There is a world of difference between the two. Are they qualified to push the drugs? Yes, but are they qualified to know when to push that drug? Or do you have to have a doctor's order? They're qualified to have a doctor's order and tell you to push this drug. But to make that decision is a huge, because you push a drug, it ain't coming back. I mean, you screw up, you kill a patient. I mean, there's a big responsibility to that, so there is a difference, huge difference in pay. But they learn to wipe butts and everything else too. They do a lot more stuff than we don't need to do. But yeah, I wish it was that simple, but it's not, unfortunately.
Like Burlington Fire Department, how many, is most of your shifts paramedics?
Yeah, I can't remember the last time we had an ambulance go out without paramedics. Generally, it's paramedic.
But when you hire a new hire, they have to take the paramedic course, right?
Yeah, pretty much everybody we hire now, we're sending them to SEC. We just don't get a lot of paramedic applicants.
Yeah, would you send them so they can get their paramedic license?
Yeah.
That's what these small places like Minneapolis, Danville, and they ought to do it. There's gonna be a
So,
volunteer.
right now, we
Pay for the
pay
paramedic.
somebody to be we'll pay for their class.
Yeah.
We'll pay for it up front. We'll make them sign little contracts, as you'll be with us for a couple of years, you have to do so many hours on call. Yeah, we'll do it. It sounds simple. First of all, you gotta pass the EMT class, that's the very first step.
Yeah.
And we only have a 60% pass rate. I think it's a little higher now, I think 65% national rate. So right now, if you have 10 people, you're gonna luck if you get 7 that you just paid for. So you're already behind the 8 ball. Now the paramedic, if you're a volunteer, to be a paramedic, you're going to school full-time, Monday through Thursday and part of Friday. There's no volunteer out there that can take off for a year. And they were talking 3 semesters, not just 2 semesters, 3 semesters, be a paramedic. It's not gonna happen. So what we do is we have paramedics do it full-time. I work full-time for Superior, he worked full-time for Fulton Fire, happen to live in our community, that's why we volunteer, right? How many factory workers work all day and wanna go home and still do their factory job? So now I have paramedics that actually live in my community, it's like, dude, what? No, I left my job, and I get it. I mean, I'm not, so the chance of getting a paramedic volunteer nowadays is almost impossible unless they're doing it full-time somewhere, and they move into your community and are willing to volunteer.
And I know when I was mayor, I pushed that, and we sent some, and he's right when he's saying passing rate is tough. And the fire departments, those smaller fire chiefs will often say, and they're probably right, I think in the end, it benefits, but it's hard when they see somebody go and they pay for the training, and a year or 2 later, they're hired on full-time, here, Muscatine, somewhere. So they pay for all this training, and then once they get them trained up, then now they're qualified, so they're picked up full-time somewhere. And that's a big pushback we hear. And I think that's part of the price of doing business, but I'm sure that's what you guys would tell you, that's what your fire chiefs would tell you.
I mean, as a volunteer paramedic for, 28 years, I'm looking at Chuck, because we started exactly at the same time, but, I had worked full-time for Superior for 21 years on the truck, and it scared the hell out of me being a volunteer. Because if I did something wrong on that volunteer service, where I'm not getting paid, and that puts my license at risk, it's not that I don't get to volunteer anymore, that's true. I also just lost my job. I mean, so that's.
So, I got a question. So, all right, we know where we're at. So what's the suggestion of our next step then? We get it, we've got some services that aren't up to par. We get that people aren't volunteering like they used to. That's just the way things are, man. And if you can't get that, I don't know how to break that down. That it's dangerous. I think I won't name, but I know there's a department. I think they get paid like $7 or $11 for a fire. You know what I mean? And some wives don't want their husbands, and some husbands don't want their wives taking risks like that anymore. They got kids and stuff. I mean, it's just a different world we're living. So what do you guys suggesting that we move forward on this so that we're not wasting any time here?
I think the first step is doing the resolution. It basically allows us to move forward to see if we can get it passed and establish the EMS, advisory council to figure out how we really want to distribute money, how we're gonna separate that out, and how we want to build our system, because, it might be, and I don't think the city wants here, but it might be a deal where once we all get together, like, maybe we just need a county ambulance service. And, they cover the cities, and, we work well as a county, I can tell you that. We have been one of the first EMS systems in the state of Iowa. We were a pilot program, we have our same protocols, same medical directors, we work really well together in EMS. So I think we are way above most counties in that aspect. And we understand each other, work well together. We'll definitely come up with the best case solution of how to fix it.
On this board, don't you need to get the board set up first before we start delving into this? And if we do, we definitely gotta have somebody from the
The
county.
resolution would come first.
Okay.
Then the board would be established to decide what it is, the way I'm understanding it. The board would be step 2 to decide what needs need to be met, you know, who has what needs, how best can we meet those needs, and then how do we fund that so that everybody shares, spreads the expense and spreads the wealth. That's the way I'm understanding it.
Yes.
And then once that happens, if it is the 357F, then it comes, okay, now this is the best way to do this, this is the protocols we have in place and how we want to go about it, now we need to put it to the public, with the exception of West Burlington.
Yeah, if they have.
And if West Burlington, I
If they-
assume, wanted to do away
If they
with
have-
theirs,
they
to
have-
jump in, they could do that as well.
We,
I don't think they have one.
and I read that, boy, did that Iowa code about the EMS service, and there's a timetable there. I think you have to have 3 public hearings before you can vote on the resolution for the final time. It needs to be on the ballot. So that would bring up another timeline. Sarah could check and tell us how soon we would need a resolution to go on the ballot for when we have the school board, city elections later this year. We would probably wanna start from there and then come backwards and say, okay, we need a resolution passed. If you have to have 3 meetings, they'll all have to have a public notice, so they'll probably end up, you're gonna have to have 4, we have rural papers, 21 days notice.
What's with the 90 days though? Somebody said something about that has to be published for 90 days. Is that true?
I don't.
There has to be 90-day notice with 3 public readings.
Okay, well, anyway, so we need
I assume they're meeting once a month.
we would need to know when you would have to have it to get it on the ballot for next November is when you're gonna have it. So anyway, just count back your 90 days and your number of meetings or whatever it is and say, you know, this is when we have to have it on the agenda. We have to give them public notice that we're gonna pass this resolution.
I don't think the resolution has to have when you're voting on it.
So
No, it's
this.
only
Well, but
the-
it has to get on the ballot.
So
The tax has to get on the
Tax,
ballot.
that's not
Tax has to-
not the resolution.
The resolution does not.
So this is, the resolution language specifically here in the chapter, it gives it to us. The resolution to be effective, the resolution declaring emergency medical services to be an essential service shall be considered and voted on for approval at 2 meetings of the board prior. So I think the resolution just
That's
needs
just
to
us.
declare.
That's just you declaring it an emergency.
Emergency
essential
medical service to be an essential service, and that it shall be considered and voted on for approval.
The public
That's-
referendum
that's
is whether
the
or not
resolution.
the public is going to agree to be taxed for it.
So are those, so we have 2 meetings, do you mean public hearings?
I assume you could probably waive the 3rd one, would be my
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
Okay.
Just like an ordinary resolution. So we could do the resolution, and I think that's the easy part. I think if we say, hey, we want to explore this new taxes for emergency medical services under 422D, we want to look at setting this up as a county, we want to establish this exploratory, or this board, which initially, advisory board, emergency management advisory board, which starts initially, they have to provide an initial report. So if we want to do all of that, we just simply need a resolution declaring emergency medical services to be an essential service that shall be considered and voted on for approval. And that's it, that's our resolution. And then after that, we establish the board, and that's why I say that then we start getting our hands dirty, right? And who's on that advisory boards, you know, I think ultimately, because as this levy goes up and down, now and then you can, and they can come back, we don't need to confuse that. They can come back and say, hey, we want a property tax, they can come back and say, hey, we want income tax, we want both, we want a penny here and a penny there. Or they could say, we want 75 cents here and $1 there, or they can say something in between. But once that's established, then it'll be that advisory board is gonna be saying, making the recommendations. And not, I mean, it's not necessarily that the board has to accept the line item, but it'd be like just any other line item you get. I mean, you don't, I don't know, do you guys generally change those or not?
If we can.
Okay.
See how quick he said that?
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not that part of it. But yeah, so, but yeah, the resolution part's quick and easy, and then we need to establish that board. And it might be if we just say, hey, let's port this 2080 agreement or this, the people that we have meeting and coming together, because does everybody still come together? Do you still have that board?
All the EMS agencies do, yeah.
Yeah, so if you have that board, you just incorporate the people from NEPO, it might be that simple, it might already be there. Can we just adopt what they already have and have them put together a report?
Well,
Or
you
you
would
should
probably.
probably also, if you're gonna be talking about funding, you should probably also add someone like a city manager or someone from the board, city councils, who are actually the money people.
Yeah.
To know what they might, know what their constituents are thinking. So I think the board would have to be expanded beyond just representatives of EMS. I think it would also require the governing agencies being involved in that.
Yeah.
The good thing is we're not the first county to do this, so there's tons of examples out there already of how counties in it. You know, Lee County would be a little different because it's a countywide ambulance service. We have 2. There's other counties that had 5 transporting services and they made up a board. I'm sure between all those examples, we can figure out what our board would look like here.
But none of it happens until there's a resolution.
Right.
Yes.
I'm cool with it. I'm cool with moving forward with the resolution. James?
We need it. We gotta be fair to our taxpayers. Everybody deserves good medical attention this day and age. We're not living in dark ages anymore.
I'm not comfortable with it, they will lose that in the northern part of the county. Part of Des Moines County would lose, what's the recommended response time for something like that? Is there one?
8.
Yeah, and it's different for city versus rural areas, but cities, it's like 5 minutes and 20 seconds. So you can see, get too far out of the city of Burlington, that's not gonna happen, or out of the city of Minneapolis. That may even be a stretch with people coming from home and getting rigged. You know.
I'm going off memory, so don't quote me. I think it's 8 minutes is, you're supposed to average first on scene. It's like it's 15 minutes for a paramedic, we needed a paramedic, which is, yeah, that's,
Just curious.
ALS is a loosely used term.
We've got a pretty connected community. We've got people that live in Burlington with family members in Danville, Yarmouth, spread out. So I mean, I still think it's not gonna be as tough just for people to realize how important it is to make sure that we're all taken care of, just because we still have family members spread out through the county.
Looks like a need.
I gotta tell you, I grew up in Minneapolis. I lived right across from the fire station when I was young. I'm talking about 60 years ago. And there wasn't anybody any faster than Keith Fry. He lived clear up past the Lutheran church, north end of there. And he'd wake me up in the middle of the night on a fire call or something. You could hear that. He'd be pulling in there and he'd slide that car of his. You can see the cracks on the gravel where he
It's
slid.
covering my ears now, I don't. Those are the people I yell at now, but yes. You can only drive normal to the station.
I'll tell you, well, I'm talking about night. I mean, he was fast.
So what, I mean, if you guys agree to the resolution, then I think one thing we can do as far as EMS goes is work on what ideas of what the board would look like. So when that does pass, we automatically got some ideas of, let you guys look at how you want to establish that board.
That would be
Do some
great.
different opportunities, so.
That would be great.
The county attorney's office come up with a resolution and then some instructions that if you've gotta have 2 meetings, what the requirements are for that. And, it sounds like the board agrees that there's an issue here.
Sure, yeah, and it's just an ordinary resolution, so we don't need any special protocol for the resolution, but we can put together the language if you want that. yeah.
Okay, that's right. I thought it said you were supposed to have 2 meetings before you pass a resolution.
That's the way I just read it.
That's
Two
why I read
it.
meetings and then you vote on,
Meetings.
like the third one. you-
Yeah, so that's what I'm wondering if there, I would,
Isn't that what we do for
if
every
you've got to,
resolution?
I would think there would have to be some sort of public notice. If you could check on that,
Yeah.
We'll make sure we comply.
and so that we comply with that.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I think the whole process is gonna take time.
Well, that, yeah.
It's not like we're gonna have this ready to go by July.
And if, Sarah,
I'll do what I
if you
can, Matt,
if you
but-
could check and say, you know, this is the last day I have to have it before, to get
Yeah,
on the
for,
ballot.
if we wanted
Yeah.
an election in the fall, then yeah, we
Yeah.
would kind of, that would put a deadline on everybody to, so I think
And-
you guys kind of working and thinking that ahead of schedule will speed up the process a little bit.
I can tell you the sooner the better.
Yeah.
What?
The sooner the better.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
I
I-
understood.
Every month I hear the three. What process you doing? How we at? Where we at? When's this gonna be done? When's this? And I basically beg them every month to stay on one more, you know, a little bit longer, a little bit longer, a little bit longer, so. If it stalls,
There you go.
I'm probably coming to you if it stalls, I'm probably coming to you asking you to tap into your general fund. I mean, so we definitely don't want it to stall.
Well, and the longer we wait, if there's a timeline, I mean, we're already not in fiscal '24, and Mr. Brooker, as you said, if it's '25, if we miss the election cycle, now all of a sudden it's fiscal '26, I mean, it just keeps moving it that much further down the road.
Yeah, so the quicker you figure out what the requirements are for that resolution.
And that might be something when they say there's an income tax option or a property tax option. If they needed a quick start, the income tax option would give them a shorter timeline. But,
That does not sound like a political
I
leader to me.
I don't even wanna go there with income tax.
If
Sorry
you're gonna have
about
a
that.
vote on it,
We'll look at that and see how quickly we can get that resolution to
Yeah.
you to begin
Yeah,
everything.
that'd be great. Any other, you guys are gonna kind of work together a little bit, and sort of come up with what you, okay, well.
We appreciate
sounds-
all you
sounds
guys
like a
coming
good-
here. I like what you said about, you kinda got me cleared up on the RNs and the paramedics.
Just don't tell any RNs I said.
I feel a lot better about that. I've got 2 daughters and a wife that's an RN. But one of them's a paramedic and an RN. As a matter of fact, I think she worked up there, maybe after. Ally?
Ally.
Well, thank you all. We will,
Started with paramedic.
we'll be on that resolution.
What's that?
She was a paramedic first and then she went to the dark side.
Yeah. Yeah, so, there's no other comments? We're done. We have a
I'm all about lawyers who cheat.
project tour.
Did you tell me once you was
R&D.
Bill's son?
Yeah.
Rip off and do.
Yep.
Sit there and look at you.
Oh, you made it.